Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the Astro Joe. I'm joined by my good buddy, the Deep Sky Dude, Will Young. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. And on the screen there, little memento token of something we did over at the El Dorado Star Party, huh?
Yeah. And this came out way nicer than I ever expected, man. But I mean, it was definitely a joint effort, but 90% Joe. And I think most of everybody that's joining us might know what planet this is, Joe, which is kind of might have some relevance to today, right?
Yeah, a little bit of a significance when it comes to the news story and everything else like that today. And so wanted to kind of share that screen. And look who we have with us, our good friend, the immature astronomer, Bram Weissman. How's it going, Bram?
Good to be here.
Yeah, we were just talking about that image that we had on screen a little while ago of the red planet and the significance of it. So that was taken over at the El Dorado Star Party that all three of us were at a couple of months ago. And for those who don't know, ESP, probably the best underrated unknown star party that is out there. I think I'd get some concurrence from everybody else in the panel here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the red planet front and center today. We've got some significant things happening on Mars, right? Perseverance, which launched last July, is going to make its touchdown, hopefully successfully, pretty soon. So within an hour, we should start to see. Well, I don't know if we'll see the images yet, but the lander should touch down, and hopefully that starts its mission. And it's set for about 689 days, I think it is, almost 700 days mission. And hopefully, if history's any indication, it'll go a lot longer than that. So,
right.
Will, I know we were talking about this earlier. You've been pretty busy lately, heading down to Boca Chica to watch some of the SpaceX launches. So you didn't get a chance to actually watch the launch for this particular mission, did you?
No, and I regret every moment of that. But I mean, that's the way it goes, right?
Yeah. So, you know what we did? We figured we'd do today is just talk about the mission itself. Talk about what's going to be happening. Hopefully we'll get to catch, some of the live feed from NASA before we wrap up here today, and try to take advantage and enjoy this momentous historic occasion. I mean, it's not often that we get to send missions out to Mars. We've kind of gotten lucky a little bit lately because everything that we've sent up has made it successfully to the red planet and is doing its mission and is doing well beyond that. But I think they said historically 40% of the missions that have been sent out to Mars by all nations have been successful. So 60% of them have failed.
Wow.
So just before we get started, wanted to show some of the comments coming in. Lori says, hi. Hey, Lori, how are you?
Good to see everybody in the chat room with us as always.
Hey to you too, John. How are you?
Mr. John Reed, there he is.
Yeah. Planet 9, LOL. Not quite Planet 9, but Planet 4, I guess.
Planet 4, yeah.
Hey, guys, watching from New Orleans. Well, hey, Gina, thank you for joining us today. Glad you could join us for the stream here. And a little bit further out than New Orleans is Nigeria. So, Richness, appreciate you joining. I know it's got to be pretty late where you're at. So,
just really a little bit further.
That. Yeah, just a little bit. Peter, how's it going? And Kelly Higgins. Hello from Colorado. Hello to you too from Texas. Just to give everybody an update, all three of us are in Texas right now. And as most of you know, we've been dealing with this winter storm that we're woefully unprepared for. So fortunately, I think we all have power right now. Some of us have water, some of us don't, but we're doing relatively well. And for all of the others that are still kind of struggling with this right now, our thoughts are with you, and hopefully you all will be coming out of this pretty soon. So I think we've got another day or two before we're kind of out of the woods, and hopefully everybody's okay from there. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for going live with us. I'm in sunny Colorado, so we've got another Colorado person
Colorado
in there. And then Will, I know you are showing something on the screen right now. What are we at?
Yeah, I'm showing NASA's broken website, and I think it's funny that we should talk about this for a little bit, because it's broken because 900 million people are trying to do exactly what we're doing here, which is watch a live. And now this is a simulation, but it is a live to the minute, to the second, really, simulation of what's actually happening. So if you were holding onto a rope and flying with Perseverance right there, you would see exactly what you see before you, which is Mars. You wouldn't see the pink there. That's where the terrain did not load because NASA is broken now. Because
not as broken as Texas, right?
But, not as broken as Texas. No, it's about to say it's warmer on Mars, I think, than it is in Texas, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a live view right there, and hopefully it says loading in there. Hopefully, if while we're doing our live stream, maybe the rest will load in. I may try to refresh it later. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but we may watch it land into a pink area. Who knows?
Well, as you were talking there, we saw the altitude dip down below 5,000 miles. So
there we go,
inching closer and closer. A journey of tens of millions of miles is on its last leg, and it's kind of an exciting thing to be able to watch that right now. But hey, I figured for a lot of folks who haven't had a chance to really kind of get to know what's happening with Perseverance, we'd just talk about it briefly, talk about the mission, and get Deep Sky Dude Will's and the amateur astronomers Bram's takes on what's happening. So this mission has Perseverance itself has 4 primary science missions, and when you take a look at what it's doing, it's a little different than what they've done in the past, right? When you look at Viking, which was one of the first landers to really be successful on Mars, they were looking for active signs of life on Mars. And it's interesting because I think they found some evidence. They thought at the time, hey, this might be life. And then it came out to be a false signature. But, the 4 main science missions here really are to identify past environments capable of supporting microbial life. So you notice the key word there being past. Seeking signs of possible past microbial life in those habitable environments, particularly in special rocks known to preserve signs of life over time. So again, not looking for active, hey, if we can find active signs of life, awesome. But really, this is trying to find those past signs of life. And then one of the cool things here is collecting that cache sample, right? So getting the cache sample, storing it, and then hopefully being able to send out a future mission that's going to collect that cache and send it back to Earth so that we can do more analysis on it here. And then finally, right, the big goal and what everybody's trying to work for, and my daughter, you might have seen her pop in here. She wants to be the first astronaut on Mars, is really preparing for humans. So making sure that we can start to, create the right conditions to support human life, at least on Mars, so that we can get all the oxygen that we need. So there is actually a test on this Perseverance rover itself to see if we can produce oxygen there. So that's pretty cool, guys. I don't know if you want to add anything else to this, but like I said, it's a little bit of a change from what we've done in the past, what NASA's done in the past, I should say, but pretty good, pretty ambitious set of goals there.
All I can really add is that NASA is cashing in.
I saw a place in town that advertises cash for cans. Maybe they'll go pick that stuff up.
They pay you in $2 bills too, right?
Exactly. with a Martian face on it.
Exactly. So, here's basically the mission timeline. And this is an old slide that NASA had out there, but you can separate it really out into 4 different phases. So there was that launch that we talked about. That actually occurred at the end of July last year. So, all said and done, when you look at some of these missions, some of them take years, right? Because they've got to do these slingshot maneuvers around other objects in the solar system to get to where they've got to go. This one, not too bad, actually, when you consider, right? Less than a year, 6.5 months or whatever it is to get to Mars. So it was launched on an Atlas V rocket. It's been on its cruise and approach for the last several months. It is, here, this, like I said, this is an old slide. So it said arriving January to March. We know it is today. And then the exciting thing is that third thing there, the entry, descent, and landing, what's known as EDL. So that's really what everybody's kind of focused in on today. Launching things to Mars is not that tough. It's tough, right? But not that tough. Getting stuff to land successfully on Mars and work afterwards is really kind of the tough thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And then from here on out, it's really about the science. Those 3 first phases are all about supporting the surface mission and all the good science that we can kind of get out of it. So, guys, I don't know about you, but I've been really hyped up for this for the last couple of days. I mean, just really thinking about this whole entry, descent, landing, hoping everything goes well. It's kind of a normal thing with science and some of these space missions is just keeping your fingers crossed, because so many things can go wrong. You need so many things to go right. And we're kind of at that moment now where we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that happens.
This is exciting.
Yeah, and hopefully they don't crash on top of the helicopter.
Yeah, we'll actually talk about the helicopter. We have a video for that in a little bit, but
Knock on wood.
yeah, exactly. So, just
Joe,
what's
what's
that?
MSL?
MSL.
MSL, yeah, on the prior slide, the MSL EDL system.
Yeah, so the MSL is the previous mission. So Curiosity rover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Mars Surface Lander, I believe it stands for. But yeah, it's the Curiosity.
I was going to say that
rover.
means mean sea level, Bram. That's when you're above 2.992.
Yeah, so it's the same type of cruising approach, right? That's one of the nice things about this mission is we took a lot. I say we. I want to take credit for this. I had nothing to do with this, right? But NASA and the folks over at JPL took a lot about what they learned from the Curiosity mission and some of the other missions that they did before that. And rather than, kind of reinventing the wheel, which they kind of reinvented the wheel, we'll get to that here in a bit. But rather than reinvent the wheel, they use a lot of the same technology, a lot of the same lessons learned from previous missions, which helped really cut down the cost for this particular mission. So
I see Dr. Graham Lau has joined us, and then Carl Dunn says the Mars Science Laboratory is what it was called. So
is that what it is? Thank you.
I did not know that.
Okay, excellent.
I still think it means mean sea level.
Yeah. We'll get to a few more comments here in a bit, but if you want to take a look at this screen, there are 5 major components of the Mars 2020 spacecraft, and this is what is on its way, what Will showed a little bit ago on his screen. These are the 5 components. 3 of those components are really going to be discarded relatively soon, right? You have the crew stage. The crew stage has all of the batteries, the rocket propellant, radios, things like that have helped the spacecraft get to where it's at right now. You have that back shell, which is really kind of a protective shell for the descent stage and the Perseverance rover. Descent stage, that's a cool thing, right? I mean, we look at how we've done, I keep saying how NASA has done these landings in the past. We've basically wrapped things in fancy, I call them packing bubbles, right? Let them bounce on the surface of Mars and eventually unfurl. You can do that if these things aren't too heavy. But with the weight of the Perseverance rover, you just can't do that. And so they have this descent stage, which is really a rocket-powered crane, which is going to go and lower the Perseverance rover onto the surface of Mars and then take off and crash somewhere else. Hopefully not on the rover, but it'll crash somewhere else. And then lastly, you have that heat shield. And as anybody who's ever watched any kind of astronaut movie has seen, you've got to have that heat shield to protect from entry into the atmosphere. It gets so hot, thousands of degrees, that heat shield is absolutely critical in making sure that all the components are safe and ready to be delivered to the surface of Mars. And then when we look at the launch, right? So here you can see the Earth at launch and Mars at launch. So Earth was actually catching up to Mars. It wasn't quite at opposition there. An opposition being Earth in the middle between where Mars and the sun is. But they launched Earth a little bit before opposition. And eventually Earth overtook Mars in its orbit. And you can see there in the upper right-hand corner where Earth is at right now and over on the right where Mars is at. But throughout the course of this trip, you see these TCMs. The TCM stands for a trajectory correction maneuver. So as much as you like to set these things off on the right path from the get-go, you do have to correct every now and then, right? And that's one of the really neat things about these missions is throughout the course of the journey there, they'll have these correction maneuvers to make sure that everything's on the right path. And even as they're landing today, they'll make slight corrections to make sure that they're getting to exactly where they need to get and land for the mission this afternoon. So guys, I don't know anything you want to add to this?
No, it was so well put that even Bram's cat got involved. So.
He's really fired up about this.
And the cool thing is when you look at where we're at, I mean, this is amazing, guys. I don't know if you, see what I'm seeing on the screen here, but the fact that we have had this much exploration, these many landers on the surface of Mars at this time, right, is just pretty incredible. But these were the original landing site candidates for this particular mission for Mars 2020, Perseverance. They were looking at places, again, to support those main scientific missions, which were to find evidence of past life, find areas where, past life could have, thrived and whatnot. And they really focused on this area here called Jezero Crater. So, Will, I know you did a speech to your club, the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas, recently about it. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but place looks like it could have been from somewhere in Southeast Texas, right? When you look at the water flow from the past, or liquid flow, I should say, most likely water or something else like that. But it's a good candidate for trying to find evidence of past life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there was probably water on Mars. I think we still know that there is water on Mars.
Right.
There was, there's under the rock and stuff, there is areas of water. And so you can see the delta there. And the logic goes, if life started on Earth in the water, hey, maybe it started on Mars in the water too.
That's it.
It's pretty exciting, man.
We have a limited understanding of what life in the universe could actually be like, but we know what it looks like on Earth, and if anything, we're looking for the same signatures and whatnot on Mars. So, and I kind of jumped the gun on the last slide, but this is where all of these different rovers and missions and whatnot have been. So again, haven't covered the entire extent of the Martian surface, but Mars is a pretty big planet. It's a pretty big place, not as big as Earth. But to have this many missions is just amazing, guys. I mean, I don't know about you, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 missions that have been successful over the past several decades, right? You go back to Viking 1 and Viking 2, and more recently with InSight and the Opportunity, Spirit, and Curiosity rovers. This is just incredible that we've been able to have this kind of success on the Martian surface.
Joe, can you go back one slide, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this Marth Vallis, is that like a Sith Lord hideout or what?
That was Darth Vallis.
I wish I had a hood. I'd be like,
that's his brother who has a lisp.
Yeah,
I'm Marth.
Oh man.
Yeah. So specifically around Jezero Crater, I mean, look at this, right? If you're flying over the surface of Earth and you're anywhere near a river delta or something like that, you would see these types of surface features on there, right? Just for a layperson, a non-geologist like myself, and I know you guys aren't geologists by trade, but you play one on TV. This looks like a prime candidate if you're going to search for evidence of past life, right? I mean, this is a good place to start.
Absolutely.
That's
right.
So,
really,
yeah,
like,
the thing is,
feeding into a larger body of water.
Yeah, I see this and I just think the Gulf Coast of the U.S., right? It's just it's similar to kind of some of the land features that we see there.
The Mississippi dumping into the Gulf, right past New Orleans. I mean, that's why our water here at the Houston area beaches looks like Yoo-hoo with sticks.
Exactly. So interesting things about the crater. It's 28 miles wide, so a decent sized crater. It's not super large, right? When you look at some of these craters on even the moon, some of them can be hundreds of kilometers wide. They're pretty large. This is a decent sized crater, not a small one, not a large one, but one where if you look at it, could have held water. And if you take a look at some of the flows and everything else on the surface there, likely indication that water was there roughly about 3.5 billion years ago. So while Earth was still in its primordial phase, getting bombarded by all kinds of objects out there, it's believed that water was actually in this location. So that's why this mission is being sent out there. And you can see that it's about 2,300 miles from where Curiosity is in Gale Crater. So a little less than the width of the United States, the continental U.S., but still not a bad place to explore. The more of these places we can explore, the better. And guys, this is what I'm pretty excited about, right? When you take a look at all the technology that they're implementing in this, you've got this landing site for Perseverance, which is relatively small, right? I remember seeing some of the previous missions like Curiosity, and they had this huge oval potential landing area, right? They're doing a lot right now to really minimize where this thing can actually land so that they can get to the science of the mission right away, right? If you compare it and then you take a look at where this thing should be landing, they're hoping to get it somewhere near the delta. So that delta where that flow of water was going out should give a good indication of, because water is flowing through there, should be a good place to actually test for past microbial life or anything else that may have existed, right? They've color coded this. University of Arizona, along with JPL and a few other organizations, USGS, are looking to do a lot of their exploration in that delta area. But then outside of that, they want to get to just outside of Jezero Crater, because if you look at the outflow from there, there may be some opportunity to find potentially some other evidence of life, past life.
Yeah.
And then there's the Perseverance rover. So guys, any familiarity with other rovers out there?
There's Disney movies I don't watch. Is that what you're referring to?
Wally.
Yeah. So no, the point being is this is, a lot of people said this is a copy of the Curiosity rover, and it's not an exact copy. Obviously, there are some subtle differences and whatnot.
That's a cheap shot.
What's that?
That's a cheap shot. Curiosity.
Oh. But it is leveraging a lot of the same technology that they used on the Curiosity rover. So the cool thing is they needed a rover. They had one they've had several that have been really successful. So, why change what's working, right? And so they've obviously updated some of the tools and the experiments that are on board of this thing, but it is, for the most part, a very close copy of what we saw with Curiosity. But there is one thing there in the lower portion of that image that is a little different. And Will, as a drone operator yourself, I'm pretty excited about this, right?
Yeah, this is going to be cool. This is the first time we've ever done anything like what they're about to try to do here. Like you said earlier, lots of firsts coming with this mission. And this is one I'm really excited about. It's Inspiration. Is that the name of the helicopter? Yes. I'm bad on these names. They all have different names. But yeah, super exciting, man. I'm excited to hear the sounds of Mars too in a little bit better detail, because that stuff's going to end up in the music sampled anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. And cool times indeed, right? This is something that, like I said, is just a really incredible thing. And like Carl said, twice as many instruments than Curiosity. Yeah, absolutely. I believe there are 23 cameras on this thing, and 6 major experiments that are on there. And we'll talk about those in a bit too.
Ingenuity.
Ingenuity. Thank you. But yeah, it's really cool to see us pushing the limits. And you think, hey, we take it for granted. We can fly drones on the Earth all the time. What's so hard about flying a drone on Mars? Well, the Martian atmosphere isn't quite what it is on Earth, right? It's a lot thinner there. And so those blades, though in theory should work, we don't know. And this isn't one of those make or break type of missions, right? With the helicopter, that if it doesn't fly, everything is broken and whatnot. No, the cool thing with this is if it works, great. We can start to incorporate some of these things in future missions as well. So really excited about that. And I don't know if they have any of the DJI protection plans for this.
I hope they did at least get the DJI protection plan for this, because you never know.
Yeah, Will talked me into getting a drone recently, by the way. So it's
I really twisted his arm on that one. Like anybody needs help getting, twisting their arm for that. It's awesome.
Yeah, toys, exactly.
Toys.
And there you go. I mean, you have side-by-side comparisons there. You've got the Perseverance rover on the right and the Curiosity rover on the left. And, while you can see subtle differences in, some of the instruments and everything else, very similar chassis, very similar landers and the way that it landed on the surface of Mars. A lot of similarities here, guys. So like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there are some differences. One of the main ones, and I didn't notice this for a while, but they said this aft crossbeam was a big one. I was like, really? Okay, I wouldn't have noticed this thing. But they called it kind of like a shopping cart handle. So if you're ever looking at pictures of the two and you don't see that aft crossbeam on the back, then it's the Curiosity rover. And if you do see it, then it's the Perseverance rover, right? There's some differences in the wheel design. So when we said don't reinvent the wheel, they kind of did reinvent the wheel a little bit here. They do have 23 cameras on this lander, or excuse me, on the rover. They have a heavy duty turret over here that can hold some of the heavier science tools. And like we were talking about earlier, that sample caching system that, what hopefully they'll be able to use, for a future mission to actually extract this, send it back to Earth. That's a little bit different here than it was on Curiosity. So a lot of cool science that's being done on this platform. They actually have a 3D model here that I was hoping we might be able to load, but I think we may want to take it easy on the NASA website right now.
You know what though? I did get the EDL simulation to load fully, and it's It's in there now. Yeah. So whenever we're ready for that,
perfect.
It looks like we are. I'll just give you all an update. 28 minutes away, and we're 4,000 miles from the landing site.
4,000. Okay, so we've gone 1,000 miles since we started this broadcast. Well,
crazy.
At least I thought. Yeah. So here just brief differences in the wheels. The wheels are a little bit wider, just a tiny bit wider, a little bit smaller and more narrow, I should say. But you see that they've gotten rid of those chevron type designs for traversing the Martian landscape and have gone for more slightly curved lines there. So again, just subtle differences. I think those rims look pretty cool. I'd like them on my truck.
Yeah. I was going to say in your previous slide, it looks like, the 2018 versus the 2020 models. They just, updated a little stuff.
Yeah. And you might be able to put this on the launch van, right?
Sure. Why not? Why not? We'll see.
And then here are some of those instruments that we were talking about. So I don't know, Will or Bram, if you've had a chance to take a look at any of these and see if there are any that you're really particularly interested in. But, for me, that subsurface radar, I think, is going to be pretty interesting. And then Moxie, when we talked about whether or not, and here's my daughter, by the way, she wanted to chime in. She wants to be the first Martian astronaut. You can step up just a little bit. She wanted to be the first Martian astronaut. So this Moxie experiment that they have on Perseverance is going to be really important. So making sure that we can synthesize oxygen from Martian CO2. So pretty cool. Like I said, there are plenty of scientific experiments to be done on this. And as somebody else had mentioned earlier, twice the number that there were on Curiosity. So it's going to be about 2 Earth years of pretty exciting science that's going on here. Hopefully more.
Hooray.
So guys, I know this is what we're all here and excited for today, is the entry, descent, and landing, or as they call it, the EDL. So you said that we're about 4,000 miles away.
Yeah,
so,
look again real quick. 3,700.
3,700. Okay, cool. So we've got to go through this pretty quick, and hopefully we'll be able to watch the simulation. But entry starts at the top of the Martian atmosphere. And again, the Martian atmosphere isn't nearly as thick as the Earth atmosphere, right? But it is still there, and it can still be used to slow down this craft on its way to the surface of Mars. So when it's entering the atmosphere, it's going to be going about 12,500 miles per hour. So a pretty good clip. To go from 12,500 miles per hour to 0 in a controlled way, easy to do it, and crashing to the ground, but to do it in a controlled way is really tough, right? And this whole process is going to take about 7 minutes, which is incredible to think that you can go from 12,500 miles per hour to 0 successfully in less than 7 minutes. So at around 6,900 feet, a little less than 7,000 feet, the back shell is going to split off. And then so they'll actually have a parachute. The parachute can only slow them down so much, right? At that point, you need those rockets to help slow you down even further. So it's going to slow the Perseverance rover down quite a bit. And then when it gets to just that last little bit, it's going to slow the descent down to about a little over 1.5 miles an hour, to slowly lower, using that sky crane, the Perseverance rover to the surface of the Martian surface, I should say. And then when it's done lowering it, it's got sensors on the bottom of the rover. It'll report everything is okay. It's on the ground. That sky crane will then detach, which I think is pretty cool, right? It'll detach and then fly off somewhere, exhaust its fuel, and then crash land off in the distance, most likely, so that it doesn't do any harm to the Perseverance rover itself. So this is what we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed for, and hopefully we'll be able to get more from the live stream from NASA here in a bit. And guys, I don't know about you, but pretty exciting stuff, right?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
And Lori, I know you said thank you for not saying female astronaut. Absolutely not, right? they're all astronauts regardless. So I'm hoping she is the first one to land, regardless of gender or anything else like that. So
it would sound funny saying male astronaut Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon. You don't sometimes think about that kind of thing, but it is very true.
No, you don't. And Robert said the world is watching the USA to get it right. We're the leaders. Space is for real. Absolutely. It's amazing what the United States has done from a space perspective.
Space.
And people say the best brand that the United States has had ever is NASA. So it's amazing how NASA can get basically the entire world to rally around what it is that we're doing here. So really cool stuff. And here, this is just an image of what that final landing will look like. So you've got the sky crane essentially up above. You've got about 21 feet of cable to lower the Perseverance rover down to the surface of Mars. And then enough fuel. It should be about 20 seconds of fuel or so to detach and then send this thing off in the distance somewhere, right? So the idea is, in addition to slowing this thing down and hopefully not crashing, if you get it to this point, having a successful detach and then have that lander, or excuse me, the rockets land somewhere else, crash land somewhere else. So I know we had some folks talking to our astronomy club a couple months ago about this. And somebody was really concerned that this thing was going to crash. It's like, this is not the main portion of the mission for NASA here. So, if they can preserve this thing at some point and retrieve it in the future, great. But that's not really what they're trying to do here.
Be a good souvenir, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And here's what we'll be looking at, right? So about 10 minutes from landing, you'll have that cruise stage separation. So you'll see that first stage when we were looking at. That'll actually come off here. That'll detach and probably crash land onto the surface of Mars somewhere. And then you'll have atmospheric entry. That's where we start the timer. About 80 seconds after that, that's when you get peak heating. So we hit the Martian atmosphere pretty hard, pretty quickly. And then we get peak deceleration from using the molecules in the atmosphere at around 90 seconds. So peak heating around 80 seconds, 10 seconds later, we get peak deceleration. So I always kind of explain this to people like saying, if you ever jump off of a high diving board into a pool, right? You slam into that pool and it hurts, right? It's just, you're hitting a lot more molecules than you would up in the air. Same kind of thing's happening, right? Not a lot of molecules up in space to slow you down. But once you hit that Martian atmosphere, it really slows you down, even though it's a thin atmosphere. So it can only slow it down so much. And they've got to deploy this parachute here. So about 240 seconds, 4 minutes after entry, around 6 to 8 miles up in the atmosphere, they'll deploy this parachute. And it'll slow them down a bit, but it won't slow them down enough. So it'll take them from about 940 miles per hour to about 360 miles per hour. Look, if you're making a landing at 360 miles per hour, not good, right? So,
no way, no.
Yeah, and then at that point, they are looking for radar locks. So some of the cool things that NASA is doing here is they're leveraging new technology using machine learning and artificial intelligence, and previously mapped images of Mars from all of the reconnaissance orbiters that are from the reconnaissance orbiter that we have there, to say, okay, I know where I'm at. I'm matching this terrain with a known location based on images that we have previously. Do we need to adjust? And that's one of the reasons why they're able to get a much more precise landing location for this thing. So another thing that they're using here is this terrain relative navigation solution. So that's exactly what I was describing earlier, matching up where they're at and what kind of images they're getting from the cameras of the systems there to known images there. And then at around a little over a mile, 1 1/3 mile, velocity is about 200 miles per hour. You'll start to get that rover separation and the power descent. So the power descent. Fire up those rockets, get to about 70 feet, slow it down to about 1.7 miles per hour, deploy the rover, and touch down at a little over 1.5 miles per hour, and this thing flies away. The sky crane flies away and crashes. So pretty incredible. Like I said, there's a reason why only 40% of the missions to Mars are successful. We've done this before. Hopefully we'll be doing it again this afternoon. I have full faith in NASA that they'll be able to do this, but pretty exciting stuff, guys. I wish we had cameras that we can watch this live on, but physics doesn't allow us to do that. Right? So it's going to take several minutes. By the time this thing lands, it'll take several minutes for us here on Earth to actually start to see some of the images, or at least get indications from the lander that everything is okay and it's landed. Robert has a comment on there. I don't know if you guys see that. It's hard enough parking my car near a curve. Look how far we've come. It blows my mind. Absolutely. There's a reason why I'm just driving a car as opposed to landing these things. Right? All right. Will, how much time do we actually have?
We are 2,500 miles from the landing site.
2,500. Okay.
We have 2 minutes and 52 seconds until despin, which is where the spacecraft is spinning. It will despin in 2 minutes 45 seconds, and then 18 minutes till touchdown.
18 minutes till touchdown. Very cool. So yeah, so right now that spacecraft is spinning, and I think, well, if I'm not mistaken, was it like 3 revolutions a minute that it's spinning at right now?
It's pretty slow. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's doing that, but while it's spinning, it'll despin, and then as it's coming in without that spin, it'll use the rockets to help kind of guide it to where it's going to be eventually, right? And this is where you can take a look at the landing site for Perseverance over here. It's a pretty small landing location. This is Jezero Crater, and just for comparison, right? These other landers didn't land in the same location, obviously, but the path of their landing, the possible locations where they could have landed. Curiosity is this slightly larger ellipse that we have here, and again, really accurate, but not as accurate as what we're doing here. And then you had the Phoenix InSight lander, which is one of the more recent landers to go to Mars. It's doing a lot of seismic studies there on Mars. Had a pretty wide, almost 81 mile wide swath of landing location. And then Pathfinder from several years ago, 125 by 43.5 miles. So you could see all the improvements they've made and leveraging technology and whatnot to really be able to pinpoint the landing. So look, if we want to do experimentation around this area, you don't want to have to travel to that area for months on end and hopefully, be able to maintain batteries and everything else. So that's why it's important for them to really be able to get a better target to land on this time around. And again, we talked about some of the new technologies that they're using. This range trigger is pretty interesting, right? So using range trigger, using some of the other images, doing plate solves, things like that, to really be able to kind of pinpoint what they're doing there is really pretty amazing. So here's an interesting little animation that I found, guys, and feel free to comment on it. But as they come down and they've got that parachute down, they're actually taking those photos. They're taking photos on the descent, and they're comparing those photos to photos that we've gotten from the orbiters and other things like that. And they're just doing the comparisons, right? This doesn't work unless you have kind of the computational power to be able to do this. In the past, to be able to make those photographic comparisons, you just didn't have the computers on board to be able to do that. Now, because of computational power and everything else, they can start to do that real time. And because of the lag, basically, between communications from the rover to Earth, there's no way to have a pilot actually steer this thing off to where it needs to go. And so it's using that information, kind of that machine learning, artificial intelligence to, know where it's going and make corrections on landing so that it gets to the right place. So, guys, this is a good test of some of the technology there.
Joe, the cruise stage has been separated.
Nice.
Has occurred, and we're 15 minutes from touchdown. So, and they're going to eject the cruise ballast masses in a second, which is
awesome.
Just, to restabilize the craft.
Awesome. So yeah, just a few more things here. We won't actually go through the 7 minutes of terror, just given time. If we have some time afterwards, we'll get to it. But just briefly, we'll talk about Ingenuity. I thought there was a pretty cool animation that they'd put out there. So when Perseverance is up and running, it gets to a location where they want to test this. The helicopter, the drone, is hitching a ride underneath the belly of this thing, right? And so it'll get to a point where it's able to lower it. Perseverance will back up just a little bit, and then you'll see Ingenuity start to spin up. It'll go through its system checks. Once Perseverance is backed up enough, right, far enough away. Again, we don't want to have to use DJI care.
We don't.
But once it's far enough away, you'll start to get the systems online. And, much like you see with drones on Earth, for anybody who has a drone, you'll see the blades start to spin, calibrate, and get balanced and things like that. And once everything checks out okay with the systems, it'll actually start to fly. So, people have seen this particular video, and then you hear some of the noises and sounds. I don't know if that's coming through on the live stream, but people say, "Oh, I didn't know you can actually hear these sounds on Mars." Well, yeah, of course. So Mars, although being in space, isn't a vacuum, right? So there is an atmosphere there, and sound does travel. And as Will, you said earlier, you can't wait to hear what some of these sounds actually sound like, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
So yeah, so you can see spinning up here, and again, because of the challenges due to the thin atmosphere in Mars, this thing should fly, right? Theoretically, it should fly. If they didn't think it wouldn't. Then they wouldn't have sent this thing out there, right? Every ounce is valuable in terms of the payload.
And we're ready to watch it.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so much like a drone on Earth, right? Like a lot of the videos you've done, Will, this thing's going to hover around, take photos. And hopefully we can leverage this technology in the future, because if this works, then other missions can be sent out with drones like this so that they can start taking images and supporting the Land Rover missions that are out there as well. So pretty cool stuff that's going on there, guys. I don't know if you
oh yeah,
you guys are excited about it. And
yeah, all I'll say about that is 5 minutes 50 seconds till entry interface.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we'll skip through this pretty quick, but again, that's kind of what they're testing here. It's not a critical component of the mission itself, but it's if they can get this thing to work, this is really going to help out with future missions.
It's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great way to do reconnaissance, to look for other places that are, good candidates for exploration.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. No, you just don't get that level of detail, even with the orbiting missions and whatnot. You just don't get that level of detail, right? And then in the future, right, this is just an artist rendition of what a future mission can look like. So we talked about that cache, being able to pick that up and collect it to send it forward back to Earth, I should say. So you would have some sort of lander that would come by, and this was just an old rendition of Perseverance here. That we know that's not what Perseverance looks like, right? Those wheels are a little shabby compared to what Perseverance actually has. But you would have some sort of arm that goes out and collects that cache tube, picks it up, and then eventually launches it into and NASA's actually working with the European Space Agency right now on developing an orbiter that would be in orbit around Mars, that would collect this sample and eventually bring it back to Earth. So look, we've landed several men on the surface of the moon and brought them back successfully. To do this with Mars is pretty incredible. But it's kind of the same thing, right? Something is landed, you launch it into space, and there's another craft that's up there orbiting, much like you had the command module orbiting, collecting it, and then sending it back to Earth. So this is, again, just a artist rendition of what that sample would look like. And that's it, guys. So hopefully with that, you've gotten a little bit of a taste of what Perseverance is doing and why we're all excited today. And Will, I don't know if you've got the website up and want to share that.
I do. Yeah, I can share the Chrome tab.
We'll add that to the stream here. And we'll take a few of these comments as we're waiting. So Graham says atmospheric entry is almost there.
Yeah, Dr. Graham Lau, he's an astrobiologist. He's a really cool guy. If you don't know him, you should. And
he was your guest this past week, right?
He was, yeah. There's a whole show on that. Y'all can go back and watch that. But you'll notice that with our perspective here, you can see the Big Dipper behind the spacecraft there. Part of the Big Dipper has already sunk behind Mars, but you can see the handle sort of going above the vehicle there.
That curve there, absolutely.
Yep.
Robert says the drone is brilliant. It'll go places that the others can't. That's absolutely right. If you take a look at historically, these rovers, they've been on the surface of Mars for a long time, and they've far exceeded their originally intended mission life. But when you look at the actual distances they've traveled, not that far, right? It takes a while to make sure that these things are on the right bearings. They're not going to go into a crater that they shouldn't go to, or crash into a boulder or anything else like that. This kind of technology, this drone technology that they're going to be experimenting with here, really is going to open up Mars for much greater exploration over the long term.
Totally.
Wow. Yeah. Agree with you, Lori. It is pretty incredible. And Liz says, Graham is so cool. Absolutely. Right.
Graham is a cool dude, man.
Graham is a really cool dude.
Y'all can see Perseus right over here. This is the constellation Perseus, since we're constellation hunting. which would put that as Cassiopeia right there. And NASA
Hey,
got the
I got a
stars right.
question.
Go ahead, Bram. Sorry.
So Mars is currently 11.3 seconds, light seconds away, right?
Mhm.
So the time to touchdown we're seeing here, is that true time, or
Yes.
is that So then we won't really get a signal back for another 11 minutes later.
11 minutes or so.
Seconds.
Yeah, well, it'll
seconds.
take us
Minutes.
11 minutes to know that it's on the surface successfully. Yeah, because I think it does transmit back to one of the Mars satellites and then to us, or maybe direct to us. I don't know exactly how that works.
Yeah.
We'll know very, very shortly after it's in. Of course, the reason they're doing everything robotically, like Joe said, is because of that time delay. You know, if you were trying to fly this thing actively, that'd be an 11-minute lag. Try playing a Call of Duty or, Fortnite with an 11-minute lag. You know, they're already on the next map and you're still trying to get out of the spawn point. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's physics limits us in what we can do here, right? We just can't go faster than the speed of light. And, that's why it's important. And I think all the progress that we've made with computing power and whatnot, you can have more automated systems to take care of these things and make sure that it avoids as many of the obstacles that it can avoid in order to make a successful landing. Hey, Will and everyone from Nora.
Hey, Nora.
How are you?
We got 30 seconds till
30
entry
seconds,
interface
guys.
until the spacecraft will start cooking itself. Well, actually, Mars will start cooking. You can actually see Mars really getting bigger in the window now.
Yeah. But if you rotate it the other way, does it actually in the simulation show a reddening of the heat shield?
It will. Yeah, it'll show it'll show sort of a shock bow coming off of it.
Nice.
We'll see that here in a few seconds. Well, actually, in about 4 seconds.
And Lisa says hi, Will.
Hey, Lisa. Good to see Lisa in the house.
Yeah, interface in 45 seconds. That was a little while ago. Yep.
And so here we are at entry interface. You can really see the vehicle now kind of starting to fall. It was falling before, shooting into Mars, but now it's kind of falling into Mars. And it's notable to note that it is going 12,000 miles an hour right now.
Yeah. And that was the thing, right? So 80 seconds after atmospheric entry, right, is when we saw maximum heating. And then 90 seconds afterwards is when we saw the maximum deceleration from that piece right there. So shortly after that, we should see the parachute deploy, right?
Shortly after, yes.
Yeah. Hey, Fifi, how are you? From Ukraine, but Persian. Welcome.
Guidance
has worldwide
started.
Audience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, there's the glow. You can see the Perseverance landing site there. I'll try to swing this around.
There you go.
That's cool.
Show that and you can already see we're decelerating. We're almost to 11,000 miles per hour now.
Yeah,
we were just
decelerating pretty quickly. Yeah, it's decelerating. I mean, now we're in the 10,000. So it is. Hey, that's one of the cool things about landing a spacecraft on a planet or an object that has an atmosphere, right? You can certainly take advantage of that atmosphere to slow you down. It introduces other problems.
That's right.
But
yeah, you want to actually make it to the ground. I think Elon Musk is quoted as saying he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact. We want to land on Mars and end a mission at some point. We don't want to end the mission on impact. And now they're doing the flying maneuver where they can actually turn the spacecraft and fly it as they need to sort of come in shallower, come in steeper, whatever.
Yep.
And look at the velocity.
The slight oscillations, right? That kind of movement. So yeah, there are rockets on this right now that are going to help. And I say rockets, right? But they're really there to just make slight course corrections at this point as it's coming in to see, slightly move it this way or that way so they can get closer to where it needs to go. Jane says, sending love to all Martians. Absolutely. So if they're out there, we love them, right?
they may be extinct, but we do love them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll find evidence of those Martians with this mission. But yeah, absolutely. All right. So right now we're at an altitude of just over 10 miles. So we're right there at the last stretch. A mission that's gone for tens of millions of miles is at the last 10 miles here, which is pretty incredible. And look, we've gone from 12,500 miles an hour to like just over 1,500 miles per hour here pretty quickly, right? If you've ever seen the shuttle land, which I had the pleasure of seeing one night unexpectedly as it was flying over Texas to land in Florida, it's amazing how quickly it can get from 17,500 miles an hour to landing, right? It took 7 minutes from the time we saw it over Houston to the time it landed in Florida, which is just incredible. So we're about 3.5 minutes from touchdown here. Next phase is the suffer phase. So we've got about 20 seconds before we get there.
Hopefully we don't suffer from the suffer phase. Hopefully we just straighten up and fly right.
Fly right. So again, in the image there, you can see kind of that landing site in the lower portion of the animation, right? So it's going to be going, even though it looks like it's traveling further across than it is down, it is coming down at a pretty fast clip.
That's right. You can see Jezero crater there. You can see the delta we've been looking at. Absolutely. In Joe's animations, river flowing into, look at that. That's sediment, y'all. There's nothing else that could be.
I know. The cool thing is, we can speculate, and we can, there goes the parachute. So parachute is deployed, and then we've got the heat shield separation. So now that they've gone through the bulk of the atmosphere, they don't need the heat shield anymore.
Yeah,
they can drop that. And again, at some point in the future, when we've got space tourism and we can all go to Mars for a vacation, those might be landmarks that people go visit, right?
Absolutely. There it is. There's the rover.
There goes the heat shield. Yeah. Go ahead, Will.
Mars now. No, it's here we go. We are they're going to do the image stuff coming up in 44 seconds. So what you talked about earlier, Joe, they're going to start taking those pictures of the ground, and it's almost like plate solving in astronomy, right? They're going to figure out where they are and then make corrections.
Yep. So again, that parachute, as big as it is, can still only slow them down so much, right? The Martian atmosphere is just too thin to really slow them down. And again, to get multiple parachutes to slow you down really well, just probably wouldn't be feasible. We've done that in the past, but not feasible for this mission. And so that's going to separate here in just a little bit, and then you'll have that sky crane, which is going to help lower the Perseverance lander down to the surface of Mars. So this is all pretty exciting here. And we're about a minute and 20 seconds from landing. So this is when the TRN image acquisition begins. Again, they're taking images of the surface, comparing it to the images that they've taken with the orbiters and other images that they have. And look, they've got a little bit over a minute. So think about it. You're taking all these images. It's got to be able to take the images. Cameras have to be working. It's got to be able to do the solves in relatively short time, right? That didn't take very long at all.
Not at all. And there's a back shell's done.
Yeah, look at that. So right now on Mars, this thing is fired up, ready to come down.
And you can see the velocity now 150 miles per hour. And guys, it pays to take into account, have some perspective. This is happening on Mars right now, what we're seeing right here.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Although this is a simulation, this is exactly what's happening right now.
That's right.
They're down to 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. Once they get to about 60 feet, here we go, guys.
Yeah, Carl says we're about a minute ahead, and that's because JPL is, their feed is a little bit behind there. Okay, there's Sky Crane.
Sky Crane is down. And you'll notice that it deployed those wheels, right? So they have sensors on the bottom of the Perseverance rover. The wheels need to be fully deployed. When it touches down, it'll send a signal to let the crane know that it is down successfully, and it detaches and flies off. So this is what's happening right now, guys. I mean, this is just incredible. I mean, we are watching a simulation of this, but a simulation in real time of what should be happening with this mission. So that's pretty incredible.
And there went the descent stage crashing
off into the distance, right?
So now in real time, we are on the surface of Mars.
Yes.
Of course, this is a simulation, but in real time, that rover is either a crater or it's a perfect rover sitting there. And of course, we hope for the latter. We hope it's a nice little rover just chilling. I do have the JPL stream up, and I'm listening to them sort of in the background. And they're just now at the back shell deployment. So yeah, Carl's correct on that. They're very far behind here. Yeah.
Yeah. Touchdown. Absolutely. So this is, they call that the 7 minutes of terror, right? So that entire process of getting through the atmosphere and to landing takes about 7 minutes. And again, once you start that process, there's not much you can do. You have to rely on the systems that they've built in, all of the technology that they're using, all of the testing, everything else that they've done. And hopefully, like you said, Will, everything works out and it lands and they're able to continue the mission, right? The prime mission of this Perseverance rover. So, at this point, we're kind of waiting with bated breath, hoping that
JPL, I got this update. JPL's going nuts. They're all hugging and kissing each. Well, they're fist bumping. Sorry, no, they're not hugging and kissing.
Awesome. That is awesome. So we have a successful. Is it for the landing? Correct.
Yeah, I assume they've got some kind of indication that there is a solid touchdown. So I would assume they wouldn't be cheering this much if things were bad.
Exactly. So that's awesome news. Great to hear that JPL is celebrating. It is like I said, we take it for granted that we've gotten landers on the surface of Mars. We're getting better at this. But you look at some of the more recent missions to the moon. Israel recently sent a mission to land on the moon, and unfortunately, it wasn't able to make it. Just that last little bit didn't make it. I believe India had something similar, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Where they weren't able to successfully land it. This is, as a friend of mine who was one of the flight directors for the ISS said, and she's a brilliant person. She said, "Space is hard." 3 words, right? Space is hard, and it is. It really is. So great to hear that they're happy about what's happening there.
Yeah, I'm getting from multiple sources that we are on the surface of Mars. That everything is good. Everything is confirmed. That rover is now ready to science. It is officially ready to science.
Nice. That's awesome. So, in the past, right, they would have to wait a while just to get a signal. And then from that point on, they've got to bring all the systems online. They've got to do their system checks and things like that. And obviously that's got to happen here. But I mean, this is just awesome news. The fact that they've made it here, inevitably things might go wrong with some of the instruments or anything else like that. But guys,
it's there.
They made it. I should say we. I keep saying we. Right?
Well, like somebody brought up earlier, Celsa brought up earlier. It is our tax dollars, so it's kind of we. And also, it's humanity in general, right? I mean, that's what I love about the American space program is that we, even when we went to the moon to beat the Russians, we landed there for all mankind, for all humankind. So. We are, putting that moniker on every human, that every human has technically been to the moon, or at least just humanity in general.
In general, right? Yeah, when you look at, some of the other craft that we've sent to the far reaches of this solar system. I think it was Voyager, where we had the record, right? It was a human male and a human female image that they had on there.
Yep.
And they indicated they came for all mankind. They didn't indicate a particular nation or anything else like that. So really nice stuff. The images are up on NASA. So
we did get our first image. Yeah, there it is. We're on the surface of Mars, y'all.
Yeah. Do you have that on the screen?
Yeah, let me stop sharing this and let me just go ahead and do the quick and dirty share of I hope this is the right one. Can you guys see that?
Not yet. Oh, here it comes.
There we go.
Sweet.
Look at that.
There it is, y'all. And it looks like it's right side up. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but it looks like it's right side up. So,
yeah, that's always important, right? That's pretty incredible.
So the previous rover was called Curiosity.
Right.
And there was a joke of it shooting the cat with the laser. And so during the stream, I thought about, if Curiosity killed the cat, then Perseverance brought it back.
There you go. There you go.
So there we go.
And cats always have 9 lives, right? So
that's right. Yeah. But on Mars, I think the rules are different when it comes to cats.
There you go.
I think they get one.
Because of the gravity, right? The lower gravity.
And the atmosphere. Yeah. It's hard to breathe on Mars,
right?
As the movie Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger clearly showed us, really hard to breathe on Mars.
Give the people the air.
Give them air.
Get some air.
My favorite part is when he gets sucked out of the airlock, though, and his eyes are bugging out, like,
Hey, if anybody's concerned about the rover being stolen now that it's on the ground, you don't have to worry because Mark Rober worked on this stuff, and I'm pretty sure he put his glitter bombs and fart spray on there.
Oh, nice. You've got to bring some jokes to the surface, right?
Absolutely.
What are you doing with your life if you're not bringing some jokes to the surface?
Yeah. And Linda says happy tears. I mean, it's incredible, right? Anytime we can celebrate an achievement like this, it's just amazing. And like
Second
you said,
image.
it's they got the second image.
There it is.
Nice. That's incredible. And guys, this is just the first part of it, right? As we mentioned, it's almost a 700-day mission out there. And if history's any indication, it'll probably go a little longer than that. And there's going to be a lot of important science that's being done with this. We're going to learn so much more about our Martian neighbor. We're going to learn more about how the planet functions and operates. Hopefully find indications of past life on Mars. I mean, if this mission succeeds, right?
This is so cool. I'm sorry. I'm just over here.
Yeah, no,
out.
This could arguably be the most important scientific discovery ever made, right? If we were able to find signs of ancient life, and if that's the case, if it's on Earth and it's on Mars, one of our nearest neighbors, the universe could be teeming with life.
That's right.
Right, which is just an absolutely incredible thought to think about.
And we know, Joe and Bram, we know organic molecules are all over the solar system, right?
Yes.
We are organic molecules, so we know it's here. But Titan, all these other places where we literally know organic molecules are known to persist.
So the universe is teeming with them, right? Our solar system is teeming with them.
That's right.
These organics are located, like you said, all over. And while they may not be in vast abundance in certain locations, Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, is potentially teeming with them. Titan, one of the moons of Saturn, is potentially it is teeming with them. The methane everywhere there, right? There's a fart joke in there, but I won't make it.
I will argue that you just did.
Lori says, does it have low jack? We hope not. If it ends up on blocks, then we're in big trouble.
Yeah, no roadside assistance on Mars either. Sorry, y'all. No Geico or
OnStar,
AAA or anything else like that, right? You can't call for a tow.
OnStar, I'm on Mars. What do I do? Conserve oxygen.
Well, if worse comes to worse, I hear there's a roadster that's on its way to Mars at some point, right? So,
yeah, and Elon will be there next week, right? Is what everybody keeps saying.
I think so. Yeah. And Rebecca says, awesome. Yeah, this is indeed awesome. I mean,
it is.
It's exciting. I remember as a little kid reading about the Viking missions, and you always saw the images of the face on Mars and things like that. It's like, why can't we have more of these missions going to Mars? To think about what's up there right now is incredible, guys.
Joe, can you bring up that image that you got from our time in El Dorado real quick to bring up Mars?
Bear with me 1 second. Let me pull that up.
We might as well show it, because so the little backstory for those of y'all that may be just joining us or whatever, Joe and I and Bram, everyone on this panel right here basically got to go to the only star party that happened in 2020. Besides maybe Winter Star Party, I think they still went forward with Winter down in the Keys. But we were the first one after all the shutdown and everything that really went forward. Everything was fine. Everybody wore masks and social distanced and did all the stuff. And as far as I know, no one got ill or sick from that event. That no one reported it anyway, which is good.
Yeah, which was awesome, and we were able to do it in a safe, socially distant way.
Mm-hmm.
And observe the universe out there. It was a wonderful time, beautiful skies.
Oh, absolutely.
Couldn't beat the weather that we had there. But again, this was the first astro image I've ever taken. And Will and I were out there learning
home run, dude.
From one of our good friends, Bill Flanagan, who was teaching us the ropes while we were doing this. So, Will had a camera. He's like, hey, let's give this a shot. And so we took Will's camera, put it into my Schmidt Cassegrain telescope. Will had his laptop out there, and we put all the software on there. There's a little bit of processing that needs to be done with this still, but not a bad first take, I don't think.
No, not at all. And I mean, if you guys saw the original movie that we got, from directly from Joe's telescope, it didn't look anywhere near this sharp. And that was the interesting part, is when, Bill Flanagan, our friend from Houston Astronomical Society, he was basically like, yeah, you just turn this knob here and do that. Yeah, you don't want that much on that. Just back that off a little bit. And then we looked and it was like this, and we were all like, wow, what the, but Bill is an amazing, not only visual astronomer, but he knows what he's talking about as far as planetary and stuff like this. And Joe, I got to tell you, man, for your first time doing the processing and the capturing, I lent you a little equipment, but this is
our
90%.
Our first time.
Yeah, this is 90% your work, but man, this is one of the better images I've ever seen of Mars, besides the people like that get like half-meter telescopes,
right,
at their disposal and stuff. I won't mention any names, but those guys are great. We're not those guys though, but we came up with a pretty darn good image, Joe. So I think you should be very proud of that. And I feel like your Astro Joe logo should go over that.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I need to make an update to that, Will. That's a good point. Yeah, and Joe Richard says AAA says Mars is outside of their coverage area.
Yeah,
I think NASA's just going to have to cancel their AAA coverage.
They should not be subscribing to that.
Yeah, we will learn a lot on this one. Absolutely,
we will learn a lot. Yeah.
Glad I lived long enough to see science fiction become science fact, I should say. Amazing. Absolutely, Tim. I mean, this is
absolutely.
It never gets old. I don't know about you guys, and Will, you've had the opportunity to see a few rocket launches yourself. I've never had a chance to make it out to Florida or to Boca Chica or anywhere else like that. I need to put that on the calendar and make sure I take this little one with me to go see one of those launches. But
you do.
We've been launching rockets for over half a century.
Mm-hmm.
We've been launching, the first ones were all weaponized, right? And whatnot. But it's not any easier, and it never gets old, right? I mean, Will, you tell me, does the thrill of watching one of those rocket launches ever kind of fade or diminish?
No, man, I can tell y'all this. I've been the one I filmed down in Boca Chica a couple weeks ago was my third launch to see, and the first two were amazing. As far as they go, those first two went to space. This one just went up and came down.
Right.
But I can tell y'all, when those engines lit, those thousands of people that were around me, we were all distant though, out at Isla Blanca Park down in South Padre. All those people that were around me, they were all having conversations and talking and all this right before the rocket launched. And when those engines lit and that smoke and fire happened, everybody shut up.
I bet.
You didn't even have to, you wouldn't even have to have been quiet, because the sound of those three engines ripping the sky apart 4 or 5 miles just to the south of us was so deafening. Imagine just the loudest thunder roar you've ever heard.
Yeah.
But constant, never ceasing, just ripping. And, people are talking around you, but you can't hear what they're saying because it's that overbearing on you. And that's three engines, so
Can you feel it in your chest?
You can a little bit. People ask me, could I feel the explosion when SN9 came down and exploded? And the explosion was the least interesting part, sound wise, auditory wise.
Really?
Right as the rocket was about 500 to 1,000 feet above the ground, that's when the sound started getting real good. Wow. And it was you can watch that video on my YouTube, and it doesn't give you the right perspective, but it kind of gives you an idea of what it feels like. But like you said, Joe, it never, that passion and that weird vibe that can only be associated with space flight. When you see it live, it's like seeing your favorite band on YouTube. Yeah, cool, bobbing,
right, exactly.
And then having them play in your backyard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no comparison really. And even, I know, Will, you like planes and whatnot. You're a pilot yourself, or, studying to be a pilot. You are a pilot. I've always loved airplanes. I still get a kick out of watching airplanes take off and land. It's just, something that never gets old. And obviously rocket launches are a lot newer. So I could imagine where it just, the interest just never fades or wanes. So that's pretty incredible. Yeah, Brad said, when's the next outing, guys? Brad, I'm not sure if you're talking about a star party or another mission like this. But I can tell you that the next star party that we're keeping our fingers crossed for is coming up in May. That's the Texas Star Party, one of the bigger, more widely attended star parties in the U.S. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that everything goes according to plan. There are no setbacks or anything like that, and we can have an in-person Texas Star Party. So keep an eye out for that. That should be early May.
Yes.
And Spencer said, I remember seeing Mars my first night there, and it was so sharp and clear. Yeah. I don't know, Spencer, I assume you're talking about the El Dorado Star Party.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got there a few days after Will and Bram got there. And that was, I think, the second thing I looked at after Jupiter. It was just incredible. I mean, all the planets that night were pretty incredible. But, you know, we only really get a small window once every 2 years or so to see Mars. And this was a good time to see it. So it was awesome. 2 years ago, because of the global dust storm on Mars, it kind of fizzled out. We didn't get a good chance to see it. So
that's right.
Perseverance, manned or unmanned? So this is an unmanned mission. Yeah, we didn't
uncrewed.
Uncrewed. Yes, there we go.
Don't be crude.
Yes. So it is uncrewed. But yeah, you know, we didn't send people out there, but you know, again, part of the mission of Perseverance is to test whether or not we can synthesize oxygen out of the Martian CO2. So hopefully we're setting the groundwork for what could possibly be a future crewed Mars mission, right? I had to catch myself there, Will.
I know it's hard. I know. I'm playing. I'm only playing. I'm not the PC police. I just like to have fun.
Yeah. Brad said, was it Voyager 2 launch at the power plant roof across the Cape? Felt the rocket as a kid. Awesome. Yeah, I bet it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's nice that you could say that. You know, you were there for the Voyager 2 launch.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then he said, watch seagulls dive when Voyager went up. Concussion was visible. I bet. And then, yeah, we were talking about the Star Party. And then Joe said, I became interested in astronomy after seeing Mars in August 2003.
Me too.
A lot of people became. Bram, you said that's when you became interested in astronomy?
Yep, that was
really
a drawing event.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, Bram.
Yeah, so you want to talk about the significance of the August 2003 opposition of Mars?
Sure. It was the closest then than it would be for the next something like 30 some odd years. I don't even know if the next one's going to be that good. It's going to be similar, but it was a big deal, and you know, I went out and got a telescope so I could watch it, and ended up joining Houston Astronomical Society that year, and been active in astronomy ever since.
Yeah. That August 2003 opposition was the closest it had been in, I want to say, a few thousand years.
Yeah.
And the closest it'll ever be in our lifetime. Certainly, it'll be a while before it ever gets that close again. The opposition last year was a nice one, but again, it was ruined because of the global dust storm. So you couldn't see features like what we're seeing on the surface of Mars here. This past opposition that we had several months ago wasn't quite as close, but it was still a nice one. And again, because we weren't suffering through that global dust storm like we had 2 years prior, we're able to see some of these nice surface features that we were able to capture with Will's camera here. And then, of course, in about 2 years' time, a little less than 2 years, we'll have another opposition. Won't be quite as big. It'll continue to kind of fade like this for a number of years, and then it'll start to get slightly larger and longer. And again, that's just kind of a function of, you know, orbital mechanics, right? The way that Earth orbits, the way that Mars orbits. There are times when we come close together, like we said, that opposition, where that distance between the two planets is relatively close, as it was in August 2003, and other times when it's going to be a little bit further away. But look, guys, I don't know about you. Anytime I get a chance to take a telescope out and look, I don't care how far away it is. It's always a good night, right?
Yeah.
And Abdul, what's that?
This is a program called Astro Mist, and what we're looking at here is Mars's apparent size on an annual basis, and it's currently showing let's see, 2024 to 2038, so like 14 years. And you can see this little sine wave, right? And in 2035 is when it's going to be really, really close again.
2035. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't have the date exactly nailed down here, but it's got an apparent size of 21.8 seconds.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 24 to 25 arc seconds across in 2003. Am I mistaken there, Bram?
I'll you know what? I'll get it in just a moment here.
I can also show you guys this while he's getting that prepped up. Of course, we use Sky Safari Pro ad nauseum on these broadcasts, which is fun. But we are right here. We're January 2020. Okay, I'm gonna go month to month. Every time I click the button, we're going 1 month ahead in time, and watch what happens. We'll get to October of this year, or 2020, which is when Joe and I took that picture. Here we go. You can see how much bigger in the window it gets.
Yeah.
And that's October 21st. That's about when we took our picture, you know, somewhere in that range.
Somewhere in that range. Yeah, I think that week or something.
That's right.
Yeah, and then a week or two of it. Yep.
And then watch what happens if we go November, December, January. Boom, boom, boom. And now we keep going. And Mars just fades away. Yeah,
but then
it comes back.
Tough. It comes back, right? But you know, that's the thing. That's what makes those Mars oppositions so special. It's, you know, every year you get a Jupiter opposition, you get a Saturn opposition, and it never gets old or tiring looking at the Jupiter or Saturn at any time, right? They're always good objects. Mars, because of its size, because it's so much smaller than Jupiter or Saturn, you really kind of have to catch it at those opposition periods to really be able to see surface features. If you don't, you know, unless you've got a really good telescope and awesome viewing, you know, the skies are relatively, you know, clear and steady. It's just a tough thing to look at. You know, people who've dedicated their lives observing Mars historically as astronomers just are always frustrated by how difficult it is to actually observe it. So,
yeah. And that's what, you know, people ask us at outreach events. I'm sure they ask y'all in Houston this all the time. Can we see Mars? And usually when they ask that, Mars is behind the horizon, or it's under the Earth, you know, and and then sometimes when they ask it, you know, it might be, I hit the wrong button there, but sometimes it might be in the sky, but I don't even bother showing it to people because, and I've done it to people and I'm like, okay, you really want to see Mars? Okay, watch this. And then I put it on Mars and they're like, is that it? And I'm like, exactly. Thank you.
Right.
But then even I was surprised this last opposition when it was as close as it was, because I was like, you know, I had this thing in my head, like, just don't even think about Mars. It looks terrible in a telescope. But then as soon as I got to El Dorado that year, I put it on there and I was like, whoa. Like it was almost the size of Jupiter in my telescope. And and most of us have seen Jupiter in a telescope, at least on this panel. And I was like, wow. You know, I was blown away.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it got a little brighter than Jupiter did at opposition. And when it's, you know, fading, it fades pretty quick, whereas Jupiter tends to hold pretty steady. I think, Bram, you're trying to show us something on the...
Yeah, so in 2003, it was 25.2 seconds.
Okay, I thought it was just over 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
And let me go to 2035, see how that one's going to compare.
And when we're talking about seconds, it's arc seconds. And so, you know, when you look at the sky, if we look from horizon to horizon, that's 180 degrees. Obviously, a circle is 360 degrees, and we can't see through the Earth. So we look at 180 degrees of sky. And if you take a degree, you can divide that into 60 arc minutes. And then each one of those arc minutes, just like we do with minutes and time, we can divide into 60 arc seconds. And so an arc second is 1/60th of an arc minute, and an arc minute's 1/60th of a degree. And, you know, of course, we have 180 degrees that we can, you know, hopefully see if we have a pretty unobstructed horizon from one end to the other.
That's right. Very good, Joe.
Yeah. And
very smart man, this Astro Joe guy. Nothing he said was wrong.
Did Perseverance land on the target location? I don't know. Will, have you gotten indication of that? Or
they haven't said. I mean, maybe they've said it in the audio. I have the audio off because it's a little distracting, but maybe they have said. I bet they're real close, though. And if we don't have confirmation of that yet, we will pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we will. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate all the comments. And yeah, we'll go out there and fly the drone. I'll connect my iPhone to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So in 2035, we're going to get 24.6 seconds.
Okay, which makes it larger than I believe the opposition we just had in October.
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
That's good to hear.
This will be the next great one.
Yeah.
So in case people missed that point, we get a Mars opposition approximately every 2 years, but even that has varying degrees of wow. So 2003 was
Wow.
Yeah. You
The
can
others are
see
just kind of meh. And then
Right.
I get another big
you can
wow.
see
in
why
2035.
right here, right? I guess it would have been over here in 2003 because look at how close the orbit, this blue orbit right here is Earth.
That's Earth, right?
This red one is Mars. And you can see when it gets over to here, it's a lot further from the blue line than it is like right over here or so.
Right.
That's because all the orbits are ellipses. They're not perfect circles.
Right.
And that's why, you know, when Bram says this one coming up was good, but it wasn't as good as 2003. And that's why, because in the one in 2003, I bet the Earth, and we could actually probably even look at it. Do you remember when that was? I guess it doesn't really matter. If
August
2003.
Oh, geez, August 23rd or something like that. I
That's my birthday, actually. That's hilarious. Yeah, that you picked a random day there. But look, you were exactly right. We were all dead on. Look, see, there's Earth.
Yep.
This is 2003, August 25th, and there's Mars, and you can really see how close those two are together. You know, versus where they were this last October.
Yep. And that's kind of at the, you know, 2 o'clock position. If you go down to about 7 o'clock, you see just that distance between that blue line and that red line, right? And so that's why if an opposition occurs over there, it's not that great, right?
Still good, but not great.
Still good.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. It's just not going to look as big in the sky. And because Mars is so small, it makes a huge difference. Right?
Yeah, it is. It's
And although Jupiter is much further away, it's also a lot bigger. So, you know, there's a lot to be seen on Jupiter and Saturn as well. Whereas, you know, with Mars, it really makes a difference where it's at in position relative to Earth when these oppositions occur.
That's right. There is a post-landing briefing coming on eventually, and I think they said 5:30 Eastern, but it went away.
Okay.
So I can't. Now they've got some musical guest playing right now, which is hilarious.
Is it Michael Bolton?
I don't know who it is, but it's funny looking.
Well, you know, you can't have a Mars musician unless it's Bruno Mars, right? So if they were going to do it right, they had to have Bruno Mars. So
that's right. Yeah. And here's our relative positions now, just to kind of put a cherry on that. You can see back in 2003 we were here, and now, you know, when our last opposition happened, it was what, over here, probably
somewhere. Yeah.
And so, and here's Mars now, and here's Earth now, and that right there is 11 light minutes. I think that's what you said, Bram, right? 11 light minutes. Yep, so if you send a radio 11.3, yeah. So if you send a radio signal at the speed of light, it would take 11 minutes to go boom, and then the robot would decode it and be like, okay, cool, bing. 11 minutes later, bing. So you're talking about 22-minute round trip.
Yep.
To get one instruction down to the robot. That's not
one instruction, exactly. Right. Yeah. And so we all know that Earth is about 93 million miles away from the sun on average. And that light takes about 8 minutes to get from the sun to Earth, right? And so if it takes 8 minutes to get from the sun to Earth, and it's 93 million miles away, and it's taking 11 minutes for a signal to get from Mars to Earth, then we're a lot further than the 93 million miles from Mars right now. And I think last I saw it's about 126 million miles or something like that. Mm-hmm. But you know, Mars is further from us right now than the sun is. And at opposition, it's roughly around 30 million miles. I think a little less than 30 million at its closest approach. So you could see based on the orbit, it can vary widely in terms of how far or how close the planet is to us.
Yeah, and I was going to say it was that distance, but then I realized, hold the phone here. I need to be on Earth or it thinks I'm that far from, because you can see the number changing there on the left.
Right.
Let's see. I don't want to orbit Earth. I want to go home. There we go. And then,
Joe Richards, sorry, while you're doing that.
No, go ahead,
there is a greater proportional difference in distance between Earth and Venus/Mars than Earth with the other planets. That's why Venus and Mars vary the most in size. That's absolutely right. Right. You know, because they are much closer, that distance can vary much greater, right, in terms of the closest approach to the furthest approach. And that's why it seems so much different. Whereas with Jupiter, you know, it can vary pretty widely as well, but we're not as close to Jupiter at our closest approach than we are to, say, Venus or Mars. So that's why it appears that way.
And look at how close Mars and the moon are tonight. So this will be, if you guys have clear skies, There's a minor conjunction going on here.
Yeah, look at that.
I can actually turn off these solar system orbits. I think yes. Boom.
Can you get an angular separation there by chance?
I should, if Sky Safari doesn't want to fight me. So what I'll do is I'll go to measure from and click on it, and yep. So it wants to fight me.
Okay.
It for some reason it's been switching to that. I don't know if you guys have experienced that yet.
I haven't. No. Maybe it's because are you in orbital mode?
Well, I was, but I'm not now.
Oh,
so
okay.
I have to break out my phone, and I can get it there really fast. It's 4 degrees.
4 degrees.
So if you hold your fist up at arm's length to the nighttime sky, it's going to be a little bit less than half of your fist width from the moon, which is pretty good. That's a conjunction.
That's pretty close.
I do say so myself, right?
They usually say about 3 fingers width is about 5 degrees or so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's going to be relatively close. So you'll see a nice crescent moon and Mars there. I don't know. We're starting to get some breaks in the clouds here in Texas with all the bad weather that we've had here recently. So that may be a reason to go outside and bundle up and take a look at the night sky.
Hey, thanks, Brad. But I don't know about that. I'm still working on how to get good audio out of the studio, and I think I need to use OBS to do that. But that's a whole different topic there.
Lori says we can wave to Perseverance tonight. We certainly can. That's an awesome thing to do, right? So when you're looking up at Mars tonight, if the weather cooperates and you can see Mars, look up there. And a lot of what we've been getting excited about is there right now. So awesome stuff.
Yeah, and tonight's a great night to find Mars, y'all. Y'all might be like, well, which red dot in the sky is Mars? You might be looking for a redder dot than you think you might be looking for.
Right.
So use the moon tonight. You can see that the moon is coming up on the first quarter phase, which I like to call taco moon because it looks like a taco. And that taco, the bottom of the taco is basically pointing right towards Mars. It'd be almost impossible for you to miss. And look at that, the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, just off to the left there, that star cluster. We all know the Pleiades. And I think even Bram has nicknamed that the lunar lander. Because it does look if you let him convince you of it,
it's ruined it for me. I will never see it as anything other than a lunar lander.
You can see the legs.
Yes.
Come on, did I ruin it or did I make it better?
No, you did make it better.
Because it definitely doesn't look like 7 sisters. So let's just get that out of the
way. Bram is the king of asterisms, by the way. Asterisms being patterns of stars in the night sky. So you give Bram just a random pattern and he will come up with something for it.
It even has the lunar ladder the astronauts walk down.
No, the ladder's in the middle, Will, where the brighter stars are. But it's
you want the ladder over here?
Yeah,
okay.
I got the ladder there, and you got legs on left and right side.
Yeah. I don't know. I like these 4 stars though, Bram. I want to fight you about that. I want to fight you.
You got a good point there, Will. You got a good point. Maybe
because then it ends. It ends, and then they jump right, even from the bottom down onto the thing. They have to. It's just like the real thing.
Nice.
I don't know. It's just me. That's just the way I see it. But the Pleiades is always beautiful, y'all. You should always just get some binoculars whenever you're bored and the sky is clear and the winter sky is out. You got to check out the Pleiades, man.
Wonderful binocular objects, like you said. One of those. And there are a few of them out there that look better in binoculars than they do in telescopes most of the time, right? If you've got a high-powered telescope, you point that thing at the Pleiades, it just doesn't quite look as good as it does in a nice pair of binoculars.
Hey, it's
Smaller
Liz.
Binoculars should be able to catch Mars and the moon together in one view tonight too.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of the binoculars, just your average run-of-the-mill binoculars have generally a 5-degree field of view. Some a little less, some a little bit more. Some of them are at 4, but I think a good pair of 10 by 50s or 7 by 50s will give you about 5 degrees. So Will, I think you said it was 4 degrees separation.
4 degrees. That's right. Yeah, just a little over, like 4. Yeah, the 9 isn't even worth mentioning. It's 4 degrees. Let's just say 4.
There you go. So that should good point, Bram. That should fit within the field of view of a good pair of binoculars.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what you're looking for tonight, y'all. I mean, when you look up, you're going to be looking. Whoops, zoom the wrong way. This is toward the southwest. I have my horizon turned off, like for some weirdo. Okay, so it's going to be in the southeast down over here. If you can find Orion, I mean, y'all can find the moon. I think most of y'all out there can find the moon. And if you can't find the moon, then we might have to have a chat about that. But, that's what you'll see tonight anyway, and I think it's just gonna be a super beautiful winterly sky that's gonna be happening tonight. If you got clear skies, I know here I think it looks clear out there, but I can't quite tell. But I'm gonna give it a go tonight. We'll
yeah, I think I'll do that too. It's going to be a little cold, but no reason you can't take some binoculars out there.
High.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised at.
At dusk's end, it's 63 degrees.
That's right. Yeah, you can kind of see the horizon there. This is now, and I can bring time forward.
Because Mars is going to rotate around almost 180 degrees from where it's at. Not quite 180, maybe like 140.
Yeah,
and it looks
Nora,
like
by the way, congratulations. She says her daughter had her son last night, and she and her hubby are so happy. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
A new astronomer is born unto the world.
There you go.
Sing it from the mountains high.
And Joe Richard says his 10 by 50 binoculars have a 6.5 degree field of view. Yeah.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, there are some, depending on the optics and the way that they do them, we'll have a much wider field of view. So really nice. Now, the problem you get with, and I bought a pair of Vixens that do this. They had, I want to say, a 7.5 degree field of view, that there's a lot of vignetting towards the end. So, there's only so much that you can kind of stretch those optics, and then it starts to look a little sloppy.
Now, these two objects, Mars and the Moon, are going to be their closest tonight. This is Central Time at 9:31 p.m. and they will be 3.5 degrees from each other. So this is less than half of a field for Joe's 10 by 50 binoculars there. So at around 10 o'clock, they're going to be in the west. Earlier tonight, you'll see them over here in the east. And then at 9 or 10 p.m. or so, you'll see them down over in the west, and they'll be even closer. So if you don't catch it early, catch it late, or try to anyway.
It's going to be tough early because the clouds are pretty heavy until about 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Until 8 o'clock? Okay.
Area. Yeah.
And I need to put a post out about this because I didn't even realize this was happening. I was busy doing other stuff, but this is definitely worthy of it. Everybody share this. Tell your friends. Go look at the moon and look at Mars next to it. Because today is a historic day, y'all. We have landed yet another robot on Mars that's going to tell us all kinds of cool things that we never thought possible about Mars.
Yeah, and Mars is actually doing a thing with this that says, where were you when Perseverance landed? And, I'm going to submit, I was with my good buddies, Will and Bram, and a bunch of other folks, all my good friends, on a live stream, watching this together and celebrating this together. So really exciting. The skies are bright deep in the heart of Texas. Absolutely. And I think it's obligatory that we clap 4 times anytime that comes up, right?
Clap, clap, clap.
Is that 5? What's that?
No, I can't count. I'm like, is that 5 claps? But it's the beat before that I count.
You're getting your Texas card revoked.
I'm a dumb musician, so don't listen to me.
Yep.
I can't count. I'm a guitar player. I'm not a drummer.
I'll let them know. It'd be great if you did. I'd love that. Absolutely. And amazing. So, hey guys, I am super stoked about this. I can't be any happier.
Such a cool thing.
Everything worked out. It seems to be at least the way it should have. Hopefully we'll get some updates on where the lander actually is, or where the Perseverance rover is relative to where they wanted it to land. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they nailed it.
Yeah.
NASA, they got some pretty smart people working for them.
Yeah, pretty good. pretty good.
But Will, I know you're off to another live stream after this, right?
Yeah, so I'm headed over to the Ron Sparkman's big extravaganza he's been doing for almost 12 hours, almost 24 hours now.
Oh,
actually, they're almost 12 hours. Yeah, he's been broadcasting. Not straight. I mean, he had stuff rolling while he was still asleep, and then he got up and started doing stuff. He's had some amazing guests all day during this program that we did, and I'm actually going to go over there and do a talk on Boca Chica. And because Boca Chica, Texas, right down here in our backyard, if you're from Texas, is about to be a Mars gateway. And it's a test site right now, but eventually there'll be people flying to Mars from Boca Chica if everything goes hopefully to plan. So I'm going to be doing a little thing over on his stream about that here in about 10 minutes.
Nice.
So
how can they follow you there?
So I have that shared on where did I have it shared? I think I put it on the Deep Sky Dude Facebook page, and there should be a link there where you can go over to it. There's also I believe it's going to be on Stardom Space on Facebook, so at Stardom Space, and also the Space Foundation Discovery Center, which is there in Colorado. And I think they'll be doing the broadcast. It's simulcast to 10 different places.
10 different places. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can get over there. And most of y'all know, I think, know Ron Sparkman and know how to navigate your way over there. But yeah, those links should be on my Deep Sky Dude Facebook page and on Instagram now too.
Awesome. And I'm sure most of the people that are following this live stream are following you already, but if they're not, at Deep Sky Dude on pretty much all of the socials, right?
That's right.
And
you find me everywhere.
Yeah, perfect. And I really appreciate you jumping on with us today and talking about this. I was glad I was able to kind of share this time with you guys and, get to experience the landing of Perseverance with you. So we'll jump off here shortly and then follow Deep Sky Dude, Will Young, on the next feed that he's on. He's a busy man. And George says, so does AAA go to Mars? No, but they go to Boca Chica. Right. So
yeah, that's as far as they go.
That's as far as they go.
And thanks, Joe, for doing this, man. I mean, you were the one that got all this organized and did all the awesome overlays and everything. And
I appreciate that.
You even convinced Bram Weissman to join us down here.
I didn't think Bram was coming, right? So as exciting as it was to watch the Perseverance rover make touchdown, we didn't watch it live, but we watched the simulation. Yeah. It's even more exciting to see Bram on here. So Bram, appreciate you joining. At Immature Astronomer, what do you got going on, Bram?
Always fun. Very little at the moment.
Just like a cat.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who aren't following Bram, give him a follow at Immature Astronomer. My name is Joe Califf. I am at the Astro Joe. I really appreciate you guys jumping on with us today, Will, Bram, and everybody else who was on the live cast with us tonight. This is an awesome, awesome day. Really excited about it. My daughter's excited about it too. So she got a first taste of what it's like to land on Mars, and hopefully you get to do it in person, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Hopefully we all can say we know the first person that landed on Mars. And it's her because, I'll get all kinds of swag because I'm really good friends with Joe. So, I mean, I'm a shoo-in for cool NASA stuff. So,
absolutely. And speaking of which, I'm doing this as a solar system ambassador today, and we're volunteers for NASA. We get to talk about, the NASA story and share all the great stuff that NASA is doing. But one of my other non-paying jobs is as president of the Houston Astronomical Society, and both of you guys are members, and Will is president of the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas himself, of which I'm a member as well. So we do a lot of this cross-pollination there with the astronomy clubs. But we will have some pretty exciting announcements coming up in March, I want to say, related to the Houston Astronomical Society and Boeing Starliner. So we'll post some stuff about that. I can't reveal anything yet, but if you're on the web, go to astronomyhouston.org and pay attention, listen up for those announcements to come out soon. So really excited about it. But I really appreciate everybody else joining us today. We had folks from Colorado. We had folks from Ukraine. We had people in Nigeria joining us. This is awesome. I mean, how awesome is it that technology is able to bring us together around the world to watch an event happen on another world? So this is just incredible. So happy that we were able to share it with you guys today. We're going to sign off. If you got time, go follow Will to his next appearance. And Will, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bram, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you here in just a few minutes, Will. But again, appreciate everybody else joining. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.